Seeing as it's Valentine's Day, figured I'd do something a little special for you. I'm not going to teach you any techniques. I'm just going to show you some of the things you can do. For this, we're going to be using both the 1/8 inch and, get that out of the way. Thank you. The 1/4 inch round. It's not going to be for the same project, but both projects are related, let's say. So I have the forge down low. I'll crank it up and we'll get going. Alright, so for Valentine's Day, what I'm going to do is make a heart. This is the approximate size, and that's important because what you want to do is get the length of one side. I drew this just out of my head, just as an approximate size. Measured it, found it came to approximately 8 inches. So I've taken that mark, and this is 8 inches. Let me get that up there. That's 8 inches. And so this is what I'll use to measure the material coming out of the forge. Right, so I got it knocked out to mark the size. Now I'm going to do is use my pliers, and bend it back on itself, and then hammer it. You want to hammer it closed as much as possible. This can be fixed later, so it's not that big of a deal. Back in the forge. Basically, we're going to do the same thing with the 1/4 inch. Measure it. Same with the 1/4 inch, or the 1/8 inch. After we have it marked, we bend it around on itself. This is getting a little too cool to work, but I'll put it back in the forge and we'll be good. Back to the 1/8 inch. Now that we have this bent, we're going to put a point on it. That's going to be a square point. With material this small, you have to be careful that you don't hammer straight through it. Like when you bend it, what'll happen is as you hammer it to a point, it'll actually cut the metal. So you don't want to hammer it too much. And back in the forge, this is the 1/4 inch. Okay. It got too cold, so that's why this bend is so big, but it's easy enough to fix. Now, what we're going to do with the 1/8 inch is cut it off. Normally, I would do this with a pair of pliers or with a chisel, but because this is just 1/8 inch, what I can do is find a nice corner and just knock it off. And now we are going to be creating a second one of these. So you're going to want to clean up your end a little bit and back in the forge. All right. As you can see, we have this end nice and tight, but it flares out. Not a big deal. It will be fixed later. Unlike the 1/8 inch, the 1/4 inch is just a little too big to cut off on the corner of the anvil. So I've got this guy. Nice little chisel. Now it's a little cramped in here, so this is going to be a little difficult. That'll make everything much easier. Basically, you put that over the anvil. There we go. Okay, that'll work. You want to cut it about 1/2 to 2/3 of the way through. And, where did I put my pliers? There they are. You're just going to work it until it breaks. Now, unlike the 1/8 inch, we are now done with the 1/4 inch. My bucket is frozen. We want these ends to meet up nicely. They have to mate nicely. If I had the capacity to, what I would do now is forge weld these. Unfortunately, the setup I have does not get that hot, but I do have a MIG welder, so let's go MIG weld. Alright, so they're all welded up. They don't need to look good, they just need to be solid because I'm going to be hammering them. Basically, we're just doing the same thing we done on the other side, bringing it to a point. So I'll be back. Yeah, I'll be back when that's done. On all 3 of them, by the way. All right, I got them welded. Whoa! As you can see, I've tapered both sides, and I've made a small change in plan. Originally, I had planned to use the 2 1/8 inch pieces. These smaller ones, in a heart shape, sandwich them together, and then you could put pictures and stuff in it. And then I would need to make a base for it. The larger one was just going to be a little thing you could hang on the wall. What I'm going to do, though, is take the larger one, use it as the base, and weld the 2 1/8 inch pieces on it. So, hopefully it works. We're going to find out. Now, if you're using larger material for this, you're probably going to need a chisel, because what we're going to do is sort of spread them open first. Since I'm using such small material, I can probably get away with just a couple pairs of pliers. Just gotta pull it open. It's very critical where you pull it open, because that spot right there will be the top of the heart, like the round part at the top. Now you can fix these after you're done, but I mean, why would you want to do something twice? And these smaller ones must be almost identical. Basically, what we want to do is open these guys so that they're this distance apart. So I'm going to leave that there as a guide. And once again, these can be fixed. So I'll just keep heating these, widening them out till they're the right size. And then I'll be back and we'll make them into hearts. Right, normally I would take this over to the vise, but I kind of have the camera set up where I like it right there. I don't want to change it. So what we're going to do is make our own vise. All right. This one wasn't quite heated evenly, so I'm going to have to do a little touch up on it. So, bit of a technical difficulty. The battery on the camera ran out, and I could have plugged it in, but I chose just to call it a day. It was pretty late when I was finishing. So we're back at it again today. Hopefully I can get this finished, edited, and uploaded probably tonight. I hope tonight, because 2 days after Valentine's Day, this project isn't going to make much sense. Okay, so I can't remember exactly where we left off. Excuse me, I gotta get my gloves. Now, I can't remember exactly where we left off, but I'm thinking I had everything bent and I was just going to refine it, fix it up. I've done that. This is what we have. They are as perfect a match as I want them to be. I never like having things... I shouldn't say I don't like having things exact, but I prefer the handmade look, and having things identical screams manufactured to me. So I like it just a little bit homemade. What I've also done to these, you probably can't see it. Let me put something behind it. If you look on the edge, hopefully you can see the edge. I've put a bit of a curve on it. I've actually done that to both of them. This should illustrate it much better. You can see the top meets, and obviously I'm holding it by the bottom, so the bottom meets, and you can see the air gap in between the two. What that's going to do is I'm going to put this in the vise. Okay, I'm going to weld. You can see hopefully that one is a little bit longer. What I'm going to do is put a bead of weld on the bottom of the one in front to weld it to the one in the back, because I want it to come down to a point this size. What I'm going to do then is cold hammer it, just make it look nicer. I might file it. I got a power sander here. I might use that instead. What that curve is going to do is it's going to keep these tight at the top. So if you put a photo or a note in there, it's not going to just slide out. But we still have to finish the base. And now it's... I lose everything. It's not quite finished. It's got the basic shape, but it's jammed in my forge. There we go. But I want to make it a little bit wider and shrink it. Like these things, I'm gonna make it like maybe an inch wider, and that'll bring the bottom up. But actually, I'm probably gonna bring the top down instead of bringing the bottom up. Make these more of a curl. And I understand if you're confused. I am half the time as well, but I promise you it's going to make sense in a minute. The plan here is just to hammer this edge. What I'm doing here, if you hammer this, it's going to force the material down and push this in, which then expands the whole thing. As you can see, this is the one I was hammering, and it's much larger already than that one. Put it back into heat up again. It's almost to where I want it. Basically all I've been doing is hammering this so it shrinks it, and then bringing it back to where I want it. And then occasionally you gotta clean up those flat spots. Now, one thing about the horn, when you're using the horn, you want to move the material, not the hammer, okay? You move the hammer, you're going to end up with marks, and it's not going to be as accurate. Now obviously there's some cases where you have to move the hammer. I'll be back when I'm completely finished with it to show you the next step. There it is. Bent the tip out here to act as a base for this. What it'll end up looking like. These will be sandwiched together. Welded right there. And then you put your pictures in it. It's a nice heavy solid base. Not exactly heavy, but it's pretty solid. It's not going to go anywhere. The next step is getting rid of the scale and the crap. You could use a wire brush. I know people who use a wire brush in a drill. I have a nylon brush. It takes a little bit longer, but in my opinion it does a better job, and you don't have little bits of steel sticking in your fingers. So I'm going to do that. Do you need to? I don't think you need to see that. Just a wire brush and a drill press. Do that, weld them up together, and I'll be back when it's finished, before I paint it. I'll show you before I paint it. Here's what the pieces look like after they've been cleaned up a little bit. It's really evident on this one. All that shiny is where the brush has taken off. Just crap that's accumulated on the outside. See, there's a spot there that I missed. I'll have to go back. But that's about it. Next time you see it, it'll all be welded together and cleaned up. There it is. If you have a close look there, you can see I've welded it, sanded it, so it sort of looks like one piece. And then what I did was I used my ball peen and just gave it a texture all the way around to where it looks like it's been forge welded. But I'm not going to show you with the paint on because I want to get this video up as soon as possible. But picture it black. Or red. Red would be more appropriate. I might do it in red, actually. It's a good idea. That's it for episode 3 of the Backyard Blacksmith. Thanks for watching. Please, if you have any comments, questions, let me know. I'll be happy to answer anything you have. And you guys have a good day.